I'm coming across my body.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We were previously in closed session. We're back in open session reconvening, and I would ask anybody who's able to please stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag's over here now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to the consent agenda items tonight. Dale, I believe you had vouchers?
Yes, I did. I have those, and so I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items.
Do I have a second? Steve? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passed. Consent agenda items are approved. Moving on to the administrative committee department reports. I know, this is kind of weird. You're all in your new digs now, but do you want to go to a different order now tonight? Really
Absolutely
mess things
not.
up, or- okay.
Absolutely not. I set the tone and then Thomas follows suit. That's how this works.
It's just because he's a hard act to follow.
That's right.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Things continue to go well in the remodel at the high school. I'm very much a glass half full kind of guy, so I think things will be just fine. There's still lots going on, but every day something gets completed. There's some things that keep being out of our control. For instance, they were going to do the power switch at the high school. This is the third time they've had to reschedule because XL crews get brought out to where there's power outages in Minnesota, and that happened to us again. So today's shutdown didn't happen, and we'll probably have that switch over happen here in a couple of days again, hopefully. So that's it for the high school.
Okay, at the middle school, we have summer school going on. We just finished the first 3 weeks, and we have 2 weeks left in August. So that should be exciting, and the building is much quieter without summer school right now. So that's a change. Although we have basketball today. We have lots of going on there. The BenQ interactive display boards. So we have boards very similar to this one all over the district, but they are aging out, and they are starting to fail. And so at this point, 2 of the buildings have some new boards called BenQ. They are a little bit more powerful, a little more interactive, and can actually operate as their own computer as opposed to being hooked to a computer versus a display. So we're doing some training right now for staff this summer at the middle school and intermediate on how to use the boards. And then when we're done with that, then the following year they'll take a look at other buildings. Open house, I just listed this open house for 6th grade, and orientation's coming up for parents, so you'll be getting letters soon here at the beginning of August, but it's August 27th at our building.
Man, that's coming up
It
fast.
is.
All right, good evening. I wanted to share and just touch base with you. You've probably heard a little bit of Act 20, and so in my board report, I had just shared a little bit about what Act 20 is. Act 20 is a state mandate that says that all schools within the state of Wisconsin are mandated to teach a science of reading literacy component. So that's focusing on the foundational skills of reading. So Act 20 is going to be mandated coming this fall. We are very ahead of the game, very well prepared. I feel extremely confident. You've heard me talk a little bit about Top 10 Tools. Top 10 Tools is one of the programs that has been approved to train teachers in the science of reading. And so we have, many of our educators have already completed it. We currently are working to ensure that all K-3, which is the mandate, K-3 teachers are certified in a science of reading based instructional program. And we've gone above and beyond. We have grade level teachers in 4th and 5th and special education teachers at the middle school and at the high school that have completed this program. So there'll be more. Act 20 comes along with some other pieces such as personalized reading plans, promotional policies, and some different screeners that we have to use. We're waiting from the DPI and some more of that information, so I'll report more of that as I hear things from the state. Summer work, we have some things going on, so training for literacy leaders. Myself, our Title I teachers, Paula, Brad, we all completed a training series that started actually last fall. So a component of Act 20 is that your leaders who supervise teachers or educators who teach literacy must also be trained in Act 20. So we've completed that series through CISA. It was a great experience. Grade level committees, in different meetings. So we have different summer work going on as we do in every building, whether that be grade level or subject level committees that are meeting. So that's been going on in all of our buildings. And then new staff mentoring. We have a great mentor-mentee program. So new to us teachers, whether they're veteran teachers from another district or brand new to us, we have a fantastic mentoring program. And so part of that is some summer hours, either 7 or 14 hours that they get to come in and look through curriculum or even just learn the nuts and bolts about the school district. So those are all going on. Summer school will take place here in a couple weeks. We have 2 more sessions. As Tom said, it's more quiet here than what it was at the beginning of June. And then finally, I know I'm way ahead here, but intermediate school open houses on August 28th. From 4:30 to 6 p.m. And one last thing, school supply lists are online. All of them are up and ready. I was already school shopping last week at Target, so
Oh, goodness.
I'm ready.
Did you lay it all over your kids?
Yeah, I labeled it and everything.
Oh, goodness. Hey, Jess, I have one question for you. We were talking about Act 20. We did the new reading curriculum back in 2020, I believe, right?
Yep.
Did we know, I mean, because if I remember right, there was some battle about the science of reading versus a different curriculum. Did we know that this Act 20 was going to come out and be based in the science of reading, or were we just really that, you guys were just that?
We were that ahead of it.
Okay, good, yeah.
Science of reading is not something new. There's a lot of research behind kind of the words are balanced literacy or science of reading. And science of reading is probably how we all learn to read, which is phonics, phonemic awareness. And there was a shift that went to guided reading or balanced literacy. But we knew that science of reading was coming. A lot of new research within the last 5 years was coming out as we were looking at reading scores. So myself and Cheryl was here at that time, we knew that science of reading was coming. We also believed in it wholeheartedly. So when we did evaluate curriculums, that was a big component. We didn't know Act 20 was coming or it was going to be a state mandate. But as I feel like we always are in the school district of Amery, we were ahead of the game. We knew that there was going to be a shift going this way. We also knew what was best for kids. And HMH did a nice job. They have some really nice components that do teach the science of reading. They follow that. They prepare educators to teach the science of reading as well.
So what does that look like for districts who don't already have implemented the science of reading curriculum? What does that look like? Is it supplemental curriculum? Do they have to change their whole curriculum? And like what kind of cost is that to those kind of districts? Do you know?
Expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to, just this year, not to steal your thunder, but we were very proactive because the mandate doesn't go into effect until this fall. Letters, which is the very last remnants of Title III, came through and said, sign up for free money. And we did. So we signed up for $23,000 and we'll expend $23,000 on Act 20 compliance stuff. For the districts who didn't apply for letters money, it's coming straight out of the budget. And the reason being is because it's a state mandate, so you can't use federal funds that you normally would, like Title I, Title III, and Title IV. You can't use at all to teach those instructors. So,
And if
very
you're-
expensive.
If you're a district who's adopted a new curriculum, or you have a curriculum that is not science of reading based, which does not support Act 20, they have some components that you have to implement, and you're gonna have to put in, so that's screeners, that's some supplemental things. We're really in a good spot. I feel very confident. We knew this was coming, rather than waiting this year to get staff trained. We started last year already. We had some grumblings that was coming. I've been very fortunate to work along DPI and look at those personalized reading plans and look at the remediation and the promotional policies. So Act 20 is something that hasn't always been accepted very well, but I feel like it's gonna do really great things for our kids, and we're in a really great spot for it.
I remember it was very controversial back in 2020 of which curriculum to pick, and the board was inundated with both sides of
Right.
what curriculum to pick, and you probably weren't here, short timer, but it was obviously a great thing for the Amery School District. So I'm glad to see that worked out, and that's we're moving on with Act 20, and we're well prepared.
We are.
Great job.
Thank you.
Good evening. We're doing a lot of fun summer work around, not so much around lean, but just around being here and working. We tried to work out of our building as much as we could in June for our PBIS or scheduling team meetings. We had some grade level team meetings. We're just doing a lot of planning and redesigning, and we're really looking at our schedule this year to try to kind of implement a new PLC piece into our day to really kind of help us look further at data. So that's been a nice start to our summer and work for the fall. So I'm just really proud of the work the staff has been doing over the summer, and those that are coming on new are diving into the top 10 tools. They're doing trauma-sensitive online training as well. So we just have some new grand staff coming on board too, and just already buckling in and doing a lot of great stuff. Mentorment D program, Jess already started talking about that. We just have a great program there, connecting our new staff in with some of our staff that have been around for a while and really kind of learning the ropes with them. So that's a great program. Our Lean Parent Organization has been meeting and planning already for next school year. They've just been doing such a fantastic job. Great partnership and just very supportive of our students and our families and our staff. So just another shout out to them. And then our school custodians, I just want to say, they just are working really hard this summer. They're trying their best to get everything put together and clean, and the rooms organized and everything alongside of construction and all of the things that are stacked everywhere in the building to try and get it all done. So kudos to them. And then our referendum continues. There's a lot of great things coming together over at our building at Lean, and it's going to be great to welcome staff back and have them be able to start in those new spaces. So,
Great.
yeah.
Hopefully we'll be done.
All right, good evening. Just a couple updates. School-wide information system is called SWIS. That's our office discipline referral program. It's really a data system, and we've been using that K through 8 for the past 6 years or so. And this summer, Josh and Jeff have been doing a lot of work to just shift their systems. They were using a Microsoft Office form for their office discipline referrals, and just think that this is going to district-wide will be easier to communicate when we have ideas and evaluating data. And I know that Josh and Jess connected a little bit over the summer already, and just kind of these are the things that we can do with the data. And I think this really helps, particularly when our counselors and our interventionists come and meet across grade levels. You know, if something's working at the middle school, going real well, we can, you know, shift that, oh, let's look at that piece and pull that report. So I think there are going to be some advantages to that. So excited to have that new data system going at the high school. Related services provider change, our physical therapy is contracted through Amery hospitals and clinics. We'll have a couple new physical therapists helping out this year. It's a small, not a, you know, this isn't a, we don't have a lot of kids doing physical therapy, but nonetheless, it's important to have all those ducks in a row before the school starts, and to have some conversation and match the names with the face, so that those providers can come into the school and feel comfortable starting on day one. And then just a couple invites that are going out to staff. CISA Mental Health Summit coming up on August 7th. We've already got a handful of counselors and interventionists signed up for that. I'll be attending as well. And then nonviolent crisis intervention training, a long held training for the school district. Chuck Bowman is a in-house trainer for that. We got about 75 staff, probably a few more added by the time we get there. So looking forward to those important trainings coming up.
Do you know how many of those 75 are new staff members being certified?
No, but I would imagine anyone, almost everyone that's onboarded as a new teacher is participating in that training. So, you know, I would, if I had to pick a number right now, I'd say 20, 25 between new paras, new teachers onboarded, and then often we have the majority of our special ed staff, school psychs, administrators, and then kind of a smattering of different folks across the district, whether it's crisis intervention teams or you know, a couple people in transportation. As you know, kind of, you know, safety, you know, knows no boundary in terms of where it happens when there's something that happens at risk. So we try to get a lot of people from all four corners of the building and the district.
Okay. Thanks, Brett. Any other questions? All right. Tracy, community ed. I was gonna say, you need somebody to step up and run the camera there? She's got it. Double duty tonight.
All right, so tonight is my annual Community Ed in a Nutshell report. So we'll go through, talk about community education first, and if you have any questions, and then we'll talk a little bit about district communications and just kind of the things coming out of my office, what's happening, a few highlights, and see if you have any questions. All right, so community education, I break things down into 5 categories: education and enrichment, recreation, dance, camps, events, day trips, and open gyms. And education and enrichment is really the core of what we do, and that includes offerings, classes, workshops for all ages, everything from estate planning to robotics, babysitter training, our DNR courses. We do hunter education, a lot of hunter ed, boating education, ATV safety. We did some native plant identification workshops last year, which people really enjoyed last fall. Everyone loves the DIY, the barn quilting workshops, the painting, so lots of different things happening, and that's most of what we do. As you can see, 46 offerings this past year for education and enrichment. My next largest category is the recreation, dance, and camps, and that's mainly youth, and though there are fewer offerings, that's where we do get most of our registrations, and some of that's core community education, our gymnastics, our little kid dance program, but then also camps. We have girls basketball camp, boys basketball camp this week, softball camp last week. We had, I'm trying to think what, for the first time, or actually second summer, I'm sorry, our pole vaulting camps in June. I think there were 16 kids who showed up to learn how to pole vault. So just keep adding things as people want to put those things out there. And then, the third are events, and that would be Rapunzel, which was once Prairie Fire Theater, is now Storybook Theater. This is our first year using Storybook Theater, who sort of took over the Prairie Fire model, and it went quite well. I was a little nervous, new people coming in, but they were Prairie Fire people who went off and created their own company. So we did Rapunzel in January, excuse me, and then the next day, the Minnesota Boy Choir. And I think that same day we also did the Knights of Columbus free throw contest, because I thought if I'm giving up the weekend, I'm just going to give up the whole weekend and do it all at once. And I pretty much was here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way through.
Good plan.
And then a couple youth rec fairs. So 4 events, day trips. I took a group of people to Lion King at the Orpheum Theater and Jersey Boys at Chanhassen. Both of those trips were full with long waiting lists of people who just loved to have the opportunity to get into the Twin Cities without having to drive and park. They loved to get on the bus. We've gotten where we play quizzes and things, and I hand out prizes, and anyway, people love that. And then our open gyms. We continue with open gyms. We've been doing them forever. Our basketball open gym on Sundays continues to get decent attendance. Family open gym, where we partner with Power Up St. Croix Valley, and they do, I think, 10 of them over the course of the winter. And then pickleball open gym was huge this summer. Normally we have, for pickleball in the high school gym on Wednesday nights, just November through March, there you can get up to 8 courts in the high school gym, and you drop the curtain down, but up until this year, we've never needed to use more than 4, and sometimes you only use 1 or 2, and this year there were a number of nights, there were 30-some people there waiting to play pickleball. All 8 courts were going the entire time, so that was kind of fun. And then we extended, because they asked, since their courts downtown weren't ready yet, they asked if we would keep the gym open for a while, so we did. So lots of things going on. So at the bottom, 74 complete community education offerings. Of those 74 that we initially planned, 62 occurred, so there were 12 cancellations, and those are everything from, we didn't have enough people sign up to, we were doing I had offered, I think, 2 workshops, cross-country skiing, but it didn't snow this winter, so there's a couple cancellations, so.
So weather was a factor this year, just
It
not
was
the
a
way you would
factor.
expect it to be.
It was a factor. Though something new that we did was community ed helped the ski club get going again, and Trollhagen was going, so that happened. So 84% success rate, which is within our goal. We like that number. And then I always like to throw in the estimated school building use hours, a minimum of 463 hours this school year, where people are coming into our buildings and hopefully understanding and knowing and feeling like these are their buildings and this is where they belong. So that's one of the goals of community education, to get people in the buildings. Other things I do besides the classes and things that I plan, and I think it's important to put this up here because sometimes this ends up taking up most of my time. So in addition to the 70-some, other things that community education does for that community and school outreach, I work with Laura Sjogren on summer school, helping her to make that happen. Northwood Technical College offers adult basic GED and try to promote that and point people that direction who are looking for those things. The Child and Teen Technology Use, they had contacted me. I think that was through Brad and Pupil Services, making the flyers, getting the information out there, helping make those things happen. Skywarn Weather Spotter training. We had so many people sign up in Amery that they added on some additional classes. They were worried that our middle school library wasn't going to be big enough. Some people hosting line dancing downtown this summer, and they called and said, can you help us make this happen? Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I can't always help, but I try to help. Track and Field Club, that's an example of something that's not community ed, but we put it out there, and we just want people to know that it's happening. Family Winter Ball, I help them sell tickets. The Walkathon, we help them do the collect pledges through the online registration system. Lots of youth booster sports registrations. I have more and more groups contacting me all the time because they're finding it's a lot to have their own software or to subscribe to these. And so many of these, our parents are already in the community ed system. They already have accounts. So at this point, we're doing boys basketball registration, girls, baseball, and football, all for youth booster sports. And then because community ed pays for the software and I pay all the credit card fees, I do keep some of their registration money to cover those costs. And it still ends up saving them money, and they like that. I get to take all the phone calls and answer all the questions, sometimes. And then I do some random online courses, things that I don't really offer, but people come to me and say, if we do this, and you help me get people signed up, I'll give you some of the money. And I say, okay, I don't have to do any work, and I get some money. And then we put some of that stuff out there, so a few of those things. So community ed is more than just the things that I plan and that I would put in my catalog. There's a lot of other stuff happening on a regular basis. So registrations, I had to look, Becky, mine's gray and yours is blue. I thought I had we had the wrong thing there. So in that education enrichment category, I had 499 registrations. Recreation dance camp, 672. 911 for events, and that would include our audience for Rapunzel, as well as the kids who took part in Rapunzel. The tickets we're selling for the Winter Ball, a real combination of things. 112 on our day trips, and open gyms, 1,078, and obviously some of these are duplicate registrations. These are just total numbers, the number of registrations or the counts that come through. And for our open gyms, we do a count every time we have one, just so that we know that it's worth it and we have people coming and that we can keep going with that. And then at the bottom, I just did a quick breakdown, our age levels, which I think really reflects that we're doing more and more of the youth registrations for some of these booster groups, because those numbers have jumped. And I think my numbers used to be highest for the 19 to 54, but we're doing lots of registrations. So over 3,272, I say over because I know there's more than that. Registrations coming through the community ed program. And then additional things, I listed a lot of our partners. I don't do this by myself. We do a babysitting class. It has to be with the Red Cross. I work a lot with the DNR volunteers. Premier Complex out of Clear Lake. We couldn't do our gymnastics without them. Junior golf with Amery Golf Club and their volunteers. So Northwood Technical, our parent organization. So working together with groups on a regular basis and sharing that registration like I talked about. We use the registration for a lot more than just community ed. At one time, it was just community ed, and it's really grown beyond that. And I'm happy to share it and happy to know that we're really utilizing it. And it also gives us an incredible database of people to contact and share information with because they're all in there, so that's really nice. As far as money, my goal with community ed is that I can do just simple math. This is what that class cost me. And this is the amount of money, registrations I took in. I always want to break even. Some years we come out ahead. Some years we're a little bit behind. This year we were behind $1,094. Part of that probably, I guess I don't know exactly, like there are certain things that didn't happen this year that happened last year that would have put us ahead. Like we hosted 2 wrestling camps last year that were big money makers, and we didn't have those this year. So different every year. But those expenses also include, that's paying for our software, that's paying for the fall catalog, that's paying for the postage. So the class registrations are almost covering everything, which is nice.
You've kind of kept the class registration fees pretty flat too, haven't you? I mean, from year to year, they've kind of stayed
I try to.
pretty ballpark.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that the expenses of, well, postage, we all know is going up, and
Right.
printing and all of those things. So I'm assuming that probably with trying to keep some costs low, and then, but on the alternative, the rate of inflation, I'm sure probably just was offset this year.
Right, right. And I find, some things people are willing to pay for, and some things,
Not so much.
it's just hard. And everything, every class is different, every workshop is different, every instructor is different as to how much they, are willing, they want to make in order to do it. Some do it for free, some want to make significant, every class is different. So we figured them all out differently, and in the end, sometimes we're ahead and sometimes we're a little behind, but try to stay right in there to feel like we're covering as much as we possibly can. But there's a lot, our school registration software, that's $1,500 a year just to have the software. That doesn't include any of the credit card fees that we're processing monthly, and that adds up to be quite a bit, but.
Did the referendum work put a hindrance on stuff too then for you?
Referendum, I guess that doesn't really fall under community ed.
No, but as far as the
Facilities.
facilities and usage of the facilities, or did you see a downturn in things because you couldn't get into the facilities or anything, or?
No, we just find other places to do things. It's been, I really haven't had to cancel anything because of facilities. Maybe me, not getting into my office or things like that. But no, it's been good. I spent today in this room, that's why I say that. So what's new, what's next? Continuing with the things that are working well. I have some new teachers coming forward, want to do some more DIY things. Storybook Theater's coming back with Goldilocks and the Three Bears in January. So I have a couple new instructors on the horizon, and just continue recruiting and looking for things and just keep moving forward. So any questions on community ed? All right, last couple slides, district communications. And I talk about this top list of things every year just because I think it's important. Why do we do what we do? Number one, first and foremost, always celebrating our students and our staff. Share the good news. That is our number one goal all the time. Connect our parents and our families to the schools, connect the community to the schools, building school and community pride, managing that district voice, brand, identity, and then communicating, whether it's notification, crisis, emergencies. I work with the administrative team and Aaron Osero, and we're working with Bright Arrow all the time and making sure that we have those things up to date so that we can get those messages out to people. And how do we do that? Through our district website, which we're constantly updating. And I'm not the only one who does that. Becky does quite a few updates on the district website as well. Bright Arrow, that's our notification. The district calendar, the online calendar, constantly working on that. And then we print it. As you know, we have a summer artwork calendar that will come out. Our district newsletters are over there on the left. We do 3 per year. Social media I'll talk about in a minute. And we still have our district app. Almost 5,000 app downloads, so it still gets used. Most people use the app. It's the quickest way to get to the calendar, check details, and then obviously there's always the lunch menus, the athletic schedules, but probably easiest to use, and digital marquees down in the corner there. So that's how we make those things happen. And then social media. I thought I'd better throw some fun facts out here. And Becky, don't get ahead of me, because we're going to talk about those Facebook numbers on the next slide, so don't go to it until I tell you. Anyway, Facebook, apparently we did something amazing on Facebook, because in the last year we gained over 1,300 followers. We're up to over 7,000. And we reached 1,136,475 more people this year than we did a year before. And there's a reason for that. Well, there's part of a reason for that. Page visits in the past year were up 238%, and new likes and follows in the past year up 123%. And then I realize you can't see that on the screen, but on the bottom is just the quick chart of, who are our Facebook followers, men, women, age groups, and it's pretty interesting. I feel like it's really even across the board as far as, well, not men, but for women, even across the board. But men on Facebook is up 7%. I don't know why that's exciting, but more men are using school Facebook, I guess, or checking it out. Instagram, over 1,800 followers. On Instagram, our reach is down a little bit. Our profile visits down a little bit in the past year. Although we have gained people who like the account, follow the account, that's up 143. So that means my goal is to up our Instagram game a little bit. And what's hard about that, I say that with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of these, but the thing with social media is that you get a strategy and you think you have it figured out and you know how you want to do it, and then they change it. And then there's a different thing you need to do. And then someone sends me a video and I think, I don't know, do I post it as a video? Do I post it as a reel? Do I post it as a story? Should it be horizontal? Should it be, I mean, it's just, it used to be so much easier, and now that goalpost just keeps moving, so.
Don't
Constantly,
overthink it. Don't overthink it.
constantly changing those strategies. What time of day do I post it? When are people on? Does it matter? Do I do Instagram the same day I do Facebook? Is this for 18-year-olds or is this for 40-year-olds? Which is why those numbers on the bottom are important. And as you can see on Instagram, I don't know if you can see that, but the far left chart, most of our Instagram followers are at ages of 18 to 24, and we know we have a lot of teenagers in there as well. And Instagram followers for men is up a big 1.2%, so, from last year. Subscribers for YouTube, and this is our Amery Schools YouTube channel. This is not We Are Amery. That's a separate YouTube channel that's really not ours, but is kind of ours. So these are just the things that are on the Amery Schools YouTube channel. So we've got over 4,000 subscribers, up 143 in the last year, 507 total videos, 81 of those are the last year. Our views are really good, up 17,000 views in the past year for our YouTube videos. Watch hours are up 975 hours in the past year. So our Amery Schools YouTube channel is getting views, and people are subscribing and they're watching. And then on the bottom there, I just found this fun fact, because I was curious, if people who are on YouTube, what are they watching YouTube on? And 38% are on their phone, 27% on their computer, 18% on their television, and 17% on their tablet. And I would like to know, I need to do those same statistics for the We Are Amery, which is all athletic live streams, and see how many more of those are people on their computer as opposed to your phone when you're watching the other stuff, so. Anyway, so, oh, yes.
Are you using any third-party software to help post all these things and schedule them, or are you using them all individually?
So Facebook and Instagram I have tied together in the Meta Business Suite. So that's how I do those together. I don't use outside software for that.
Okay.
So, and there was a time quite a while ago, but I didn't like that I couldn't control what the post looked like. This way, and actually Meta Business is pretty good as far as you know what it's going to look like when you put it out there.
Right.
So, and then, what else was I going to say? You notice Twitter X is not up there because there's no longer an Amery Schools Twitter account. I ditched it. It's just changed so much in the past. It really wasn't serving us. It was just another thing hanging over my head. So we're done with Twitter. So the next slide will explain why Facebook made such a significant jump in the last year. On August 19th of 2023, on NBC in the afternoon, you can see that's a screenshot of Alicia Munson running the 10K. And I didn't post the entire video, but I went to the NBC race and I did an illegal screenshot. And the guy announced, everybody in Wisconsin, or everyone watching in Wisconsin, this is your lady. I love that. She was 5th in the world in the 10K. So I did a screenshot video that I edited, and it was the parts of the race where Alicia was out there, and I posted it. It was 1 minute and 28 seconds long. That one video received 10,871 likes, reactions, saves, comments, and shares. It was viewed over 132 times for at least a minute, which is a key because most videos, if you really dig into the insights, you'll think, oh, this is a 1 minute video. People are watching it. Well, no, they watched it for 10 seconds. People watched this for over a minute. 132,000 people watched it for a minute. 144 comments and 289 shares on that one video. So we gained lots of new followers and likes, and the reaction was crazy. So that's a pretty big reason that those numbers are so huge. And those 144 comments and shares, that was, I don't know if I cut off the shares, but I did turn off the comments because what happens is a lot of people, in the end, they weren't really Americans that were viewing it. It was being viewed all over the world, and some of the comments were getting weird and strange. And it was,
No way.
Yeah,
Weird and
it
strange
just got
comments on
odd.
Facebook, go to gas.
I needed to end it. So anyway, that's why Facebook exploded in the last year. I didn't even realize till I had gone back and looked that it had gotten that big, so
So when the
that's pretty
FCC
fun.
comes calling, we'll just send them to your office?
Yeah,
Through
just
the
tell,
construction
yeah.
zone? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I didn't screenshot that. And actually, for the upcoming, I mean, unfortunately, we don't get to do this again this fall with Alicia. I mean, and we get huge response when we have state champs post those videos, those photos all over that. Those are always huge, but this one was really huge. And it could have been the time of day or the right group of people started sharing it, and then it catches on and it goes crazy. And it was pretty nuts, so. But it started getting where I had new followers, and I couldn't pronounce any of the names. I didn't know where they were from, and I started thinking, I don't know that these people really care about the school district of Amery in Wisconsin, but they liked that video, so that was pretty awesome. All right, and then the last one, or my last slide on the left, that's just to kind of break down YouTube, excuse me, YouTube a little bit more. So if you wonder what's on our YouTube channel, these are all the things that we're covering on a regular basis. The Veterans Day program, the Senior Walk, which is always huge. We live stream our state athletic send-offs, obviously recording our graduation ceremony, got some athletic hype videos, Halloween parades, Board of Education meetings, concerts, all sorts of stuff. So those are those 81 videos, and almost all of those are going to cable TV. So as far as sharing what's happening here, that's the goal. We want people to know what's happening here and what we're doing and the things that our kids are doing. And then over on the right hand of the screen, this is separate from the Amery schools. This is We Are Amery. So just those athletic live streams, just to share in the last, and I know that's sort of separate from the other things that I do, but in the last year we did cover, or we shared 59 of our home varsity athletic events, which was over 160 hours of footage, working with 8 different announcers, 2 different student videographers, lots of cables, lots of cords, lots of equipment, lots of lenses. And the last year we covered football, volleyball, boys and girls basketball, wrestling, hockey, baseball, pretty much all of those home events. And if I have the right people to help with our new athletic facilities, we will have soccer and football at the field with the huddle camera, which would make it easier for us to do some things. It'll be easier to live stream baseball. It'll be easier to live stream softball. If I have people who announce those things, we can add boys soccer, girls soccer, and softball to that list of live streams, which will be fun, but I need people willing to sit at the mic before that hains, so. And all of those get shared with Amery Cable TV as well.
And an umbrella for your camera.
And an umbrella for
umbrella
when it
for your
rains. Yes, I'll just hang out the window. So any questions on anything with communications, community ed?
It's just a ton of work. Thanks, Tracy, for everything you do, and
I love it.
It's really a ton of work, and it's really, for the benefit of the public and to have them feel tied to our community and our schools, and it's, I think you've done a fantastic job in this role.
Thank you. All right, good.
Okay. On to the referendum building and grounds update.
Okay, well, we have a meeting on the docket for Wednesday of this week. Board members Joe Vierkant, Steve Osro, and myself join George Sigsworth and Ryan Pease for a building and grounds tour. We typically start in the high school and check out the latest and greatest there, then go to the elementary, and then hit up the athletics, weather permitting. Highlights in the high school since we met last, and they'll be able to report out to you next month what they're going to see. The face of the Commons is changed dramatically in the high school. You can see exactly what we're up to there. The walls are framed in. It's pretty clear what's going to happen in regards to shared spaces of collaborative learning, classroom instruction, in the presentation of the Commons, which was really, truthfully, was a pretty inefficient space. It was a lot of dead space in regards to the use of lockers. The math and science area, it almost feels like an addition. It's not. It's the same space with the same walls, but when you gut it out, it looks rather impressive and large. But then when you start putting the new walls in, it's going to be a space that's going to be pretty special. It was really the feature of the referendum in April of 2022 because it was a pretty abysmal spot for the teaching and learning that kids were experiencing. Those are the biggest highlights at the high school inside the building, if you've driven past the high school, you'll notice there is an extension on the parking lot on the north side of the building. That's not because we've had an upsurge in high school students that need parking spots. That's going to be for athletic parking, largely for football and soccer and track right there in the stadium that's next to it. That's also an inefficient spot of green. I mean, the grass is lovely, but one of the biggest complaints is that people don't have a spot to park. Well, there's no shortage of parking after we're done with this whole thing. That's just another spot to park. Is there anything that you wanted to share, Josh? I know you made reference to it earlier about the highlights at the high school. You're living it as much as
No,
anyone.
and I would just say that the parking did get crunched a little bit here this year, especially with overflow from parents at the elementary school and even some of the teaching staff. So it is going to come in handy. I do feel like we have a higher percentage of students driving than ever before. And there were days where kids were complaining, Mr. Gould, there's no place to park. Well, now there will be. I echo the comments about the science area. Sometimes when I walk in there myself, I'm like, where am I right now? It's just pretty crazy in there. And the workers are just so darn polite and easy to work with, so.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Elementary, the addition out the south end of the building, those 6 classrooms, the exterior of that, we're done, literally, other than putting in the playground. The interior of those classrooms, as I said today at our administrative team meeting, if we had furniture, you literally could start teaching in there today if you wanted to. We got all sorts of work that needs to be done on the route to those classrooms. There's exposed areas that are going to get buttoned up here in the next month. The safety and security upgrade is happening at the elementary as well. Those additional doors that you have there are going to be placed in, and they're all roughed in, ready to go. We do have quite a bit of movement. Other than a few grade levels, everyone is going to be in a new place with new cabinetry, which is going to take some time to do. And if you drove slow past the elementary today, you'll notice that the parking lot is roughed in, ready to be poured. There's going to be a lot of concrete going in here in the next 2-3 weeks. It's ready to go. It's level to the way it needs to be. And if you look at it closely, you'll notice that it's leveled in a way that the water's going to drain out of the parking lot into that retention pond, that filtration pond, and then go on. That's with purpose, obviously. In regards to athletics, again, that's a whole different set of work with a whole different set of dollars. Big developments are going to start next week. Not that you haven't seen big developments already. We've got 4 brand new light poles, which certainly changed the landscape and the skyline of what we got going on around here. We're going to start seeing a turfed surface, weather permitting, on Monday, and a track on Monday. It's going to go quick because the hours that those turf companies work are long hours because they know when this time is of the essence. We have a ball game on Friday, August 23rd, and we want to be on it before then. You'll start seeing the pads for the visiting team bleachers and the home bleachers. Those will go in. The bleachers themselves will move from the other location here at the end of July. You're seeing field events are starting to be worked on. It's a little harder to gauge, but baseball, varsity, and JV, that's starting to take shape in regards to what that surface is going to look like. They're simply not prioritizing baseball and softball as much because we're not playing that in the fall, but it'll need to be ready for the following spring, and we don't know when fall will time us out on weather. So that's all happening as well. I'm not sure if there's anything I missed at the elementary or anything anyone else has to share on athletics. And then I'm going to turn it over to John for a little bit of a budget update on that. Go ahead, Paula.
I was just gonna ditto your comments. Things are coming along, and today when I was over there, you're seeing some of the paint on the walls and the floors coming down, and it's shaping up. It's starting to show some really good growth, so it's exciting to see.
It is. Athletics is a rapidly moving topic because they know we're ready to roll on August 23rd, so it is fast, and they're working incredibly long hours. They're sun up to sundown out there for a reason, because it needs to get done, and it's pretty awesome how fast they're moving. We've had a lot of rain, but we're still ahead of timeline, which is shocking to think of. So.
Yeah, considering the mud that was out there
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I was pleasantly surprised to
Well,
see
now we've got
how easy now.
the system of draining water is now in, so it doesn't stay. Whereas before it was just sitting there. Underneath that, what looks like a pretty pristine surface where we could kick field goals under the lights, that's the only scoring going on right now. that whole drain tile system is there. The water just doesn't stay. It's out in a matter of hours. So it's ready to roll, so to speak. John, do you have anything you wanted to share on the budget? That item's been included for you?
No, just simply that Kraus Anderson's Excel still is not the greatest in the world. So if you look at that bottom right column, it still says $2.093 million over budget. It's not, it is still $2.93 million under budget for the total amounts. How you get to that number is if you go to the top category above the red line there, you see what the total funds are. Subtract that by the total project cost, and that's how you get that number. So the brackets are still missing. I have asked them to change it. And a lot of it has to do with they're just kind of moving things around right now. So they're shifting this to there and deleting this and adding this, and they're just not paying extra close attention to it. So hopefully they have that resolved next month. But other than that, everything is still where it needs to be. Like I said, they keep kind of pulling from here, but that's about it.
And I'll
Kraus is the
offer
one
a-
that's making, I'm sorry, Kraus is the one that's.
Correct.
That's
in
their
charge of making-
document,
okay.
yes. And kudos again to George Sigsworth. He continues to keep a handle on things. But please know, and the community needs to know, we have taken many items off of the Kraus Anderson list, and they are being, in essence, job managed by George Sigsworth, which saves an enormous amount of money. We still have to create those particular structures or create that particular part of the athletics work. But having it under our auspices saves a great deal of money, and we're contracting it out and saving even more money. And George is handling a massive amount of money on that. So he's working overdrive and then some. So he's taking the night off tonight.
And so right now, we are almost 2.1 million
Correct.
under budget.
Correct, yeah, but that does not take into account, if you flip to the back side, the contingencies page, that does not take into account all of the various contingency amounts there. So it's right on track, and what I mean by that is if you add up all the contingencies, it's right where it needs to be.
Okay, all right.
Questions for me or comments or however you want to roll on that? Lots of stuff happening.
I've seen some good reels on Facebook, which I think Tracy's probably been the one putting those out there. Is that right? There's been some really cool ones out there of the process at the high school. So, and I think you did some with the athletic complex too, as well, right? Or at least pictures.
Pictures. I did a reel that sort of had all of them together. That
Yeah.
one actually, that was pretty good. I want to play that for you tonight.
They were really good. I saw them, so they're really, really good. So again, another one of your community ed things that you're doing and your time that you're putting out there and putting, keeping the public up to date of what's going on. It's been really, I've heard a lot of good feedback from the community that they were able to see the process. So it's been kind of cool to watch.
It's very cool.
Anything from Steve or Joe?
Nope.
No,
It's just fun,
tours?
just fun to walk through, and I think I said it last time, but there's so much stuff going on in the high school that is in the ceiling that you'll never see. But the dollars are so valued because the change is dramatic. So it's good.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And what the science teachers would have told you prior to the referendum, the stuff above the ceiling you wouldn't have seen, but you would have heard it, you would have smelled it, and you would have felt it, because it would be really, really hot or really, really cold. So that's going to be a welcome change.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be a really
I
cool.
do agree with Joshua. I went walking through the new science area, I was like, where am I? In the old building, where am I? Because it's just so different.
It's gonna be fun to see.
Yeah.
Probably one of my biggest things that I'm waiting for, to go in there and see that. All right, moving on to the strategic plan. We've got a new one coming up with 2025 to 2030.
On the horizon is the 2025 through 2030 strategic plan. What I'm going to do tonight here, hopefully, will be successfully laying out the timeline. This is not set in stone. This is simply an estimation of how we would get to the finish line of a new strategic plan. Tonight, presenting the timeline. The week of August 5th, and we talked in closed session, August 5th or the week of August 12th is certainly sufficient too. We're going to get a date on the calendar to discuss what your priorities are in regards to a strategic plan. Community engagement, that August 19th is the date of a board meeting. That will be here in this room for folks to go ahead and chime in if they care to chime in about the community, about the strategic plan. we're going to need to assemble some help from the community. The first strategic plan committee meeting, I talked to the administrative team about that this morning. We need some folks that are interested in what we do around here, potentially school parents perhaps, and they can help us determine what our priorities would be. School Perceptions is the community survey outfit that we've used for the better part of a decade plus. We're looking at proceeding forward, depending on if the price tag is right, to be able to do a school perception survey with the community. We have school staff focus groups set for Monday, November 4th, and that in essence is 30 groups of staff, about 7 or 8 people per, and they'll weigh in real time how they feel about a certain set of questions, and I'll bring those questions to you so you can see what we're asking them, and they will go ahead and offer their feedback. We'll assemble the results, and I'll bring those here. The second strategic plan there in November. Then a school perceptions survey for staff, because not everyone's comfortable in sharing it in person, in front of their peers. This would be an opportunity for them to share in an anonymous way through a formal measure, such as the school perception survey, again, depending on price. Then a third and a fourth, if needed, strategic plan meeting, and you'll see what the topics are underneath all of those, and then adopting a strategic plan in February of 2025. This, again, are the broad brushstrokes. We've only just begun, but this is sort of our framework for how we would want to move forward, perhaps. I'm not sure if you have any questions or feedback.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ample opportunity built into this layout for a lot of input from a lot of different people on a lot of different backgrounds, what they would like to see for this district moving forward. The community, it's their tax dollars that run this place, and it's important to have their input. So I think that our community surveys are going to be a valuable tool. Obviously, the strategic plan committees and then having the different focus groups, I think, is a huge asset. And obviously having those other avenues of communicating with our staff, what they expect out of our school board, our school leadership, what they would like to see our focus going for the people that aren't comfortable in sharing those things. I think it's going to be a valuable tool. So I think this checks a lot of the boxes of a plan moving forward and how we're going to arrive at that. And obviously just a rough timeline here, but I think it's doable. It's exciting.
It is that.
So is the community engagement session on August 19th the opportunity for people to give us specific ideas of what they want to see in their strategic plan?
That would be the hope, yes.
Yeah, one, obviously, option. So it's one avenue, one venue. So that is one time that the community would be able to come here, speak face-to-face, but obviously then having that community survey, if that's what the board decides to do moving forward, it gives them another option so that they don't have to be here on one particular night. Or if they don't feel comfortable coming and being face-to-face, it's another way for them to let the school district know what they're feeling. So I don't want the community to just think it's only like August 19th and that's your only chance to say anything. So hopefully the board would decide to move forward with those community surveys. Give a voice to more people.
If someone's interested in being a part of the strategic plan process, I would be happy to have them at all of the strategic plan committee meetings. They could be a part of the committee if they wanted to be. They could chime in through the whole process if they wanted.
And they would just need to reach out. And
Yeah, they
contact
just need to let us know they're interested. The meeting on the 5th of August, we talked about that being, it's a special board meeting, but it will be done in open session here. It's a working session of the board. It's either the week of the 5th or the 12th. We haven't set a date yet. And folks can come and watch that conversation, engage in that, hear what we have to say, or what you have to say.
Yeah, I think that would be obviously helpful if we get these scheduled either that week of the 5th or the 12th, that it gets laid out. I know that people have some travel plans and things, but to have that in open session, it would be a working meeting, so there wouldn't be community comment, but it would be a chance for the community to come in, see what the board is talking about, and then they could come more prepared on the 19th when we actually have the community engagement session, and then give us feedback based on what that working session looked like. So I would assume our administrators are all,
What we
know
had
your
talked
roles
about
of-
this morning is on that meeting, the first portion of the meeting would be the board in open session, having their conversation, and then halfway through, invite the administrative team in to share their thoughts on what's happening too. Again, an open session for that as well.
Lots of opportunities for the community to share their concerns or opinions, so.
yeah, to take part in that process, so, yeah, I think it'll be fantastic. Any other thoughts on the strategic plan moving forward at this time? All right, off to the school therapy dog first reading.
All right, Jessica, you're up.
All right, this past fall, I approached Sean about the idea of therapy dogs. It's not a new idea. It's actually one that is used a lot in education. So I approached Sean just about the idea of incorporating this or offering this as an option to our students. As you know, we live in an area that is low income as well as experiences a lot of traumatic or chronic stress. So I had the opportunity this past fall, after speaking with Sean, is I had collaborated and reached out to several other administrators within the state and just asked about their practices, building policies, if they use therapy dogs. I then was able to meet with our student services team, and I spoke with them just about their research behind therapy dogs, their own experiences in schools with therapy dogs, which then led me down to a path of research, of also looking into the DPI and then talking to different trainers of therapy dog programs. We have some around us locally. So in speaking with Sean, I just had shared with him that I was interested in the use of therapy dogs, in particular within the building of the intermediate school, but wanting to talk about with you and drafting a board policy about the idea of therapy dogs within our schools. So the first slide here comes from Canine Comprehension Dog Assisted Learning, which has a large following in education. So there's numerous studies that have demonstrated the calming effects of interacting with therapy dogs, leading to reduced levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and then increased production of oxytocin, often referred to as the bonding hormone. For students experiencing academic pressure, social challenges, or emotional distress, spending time with therapy dogs offers a safe and comforting outlet to alleviate any of these tension and promote relaxation. There are great benefits to promoting student outcomes in all areas of development, and then beyond the immediate benefits of stress reduction and improved social emotional skills, therapy dogs contribute to students' overall well-being by creating a positive and supportive learning environment. The next two slides, I did highlight what are the mental and physical health benefits. As I'm sure many of you already know, it has an automatic relaxation response. It promotes the release of serotonin, prolactin, and oxytocin, all which play a part in elevating moods. It lowers your cortisol levels. For our students here, provides comfort, reduces loneliness, increases mental stimulation. An interesting path that led me down is the use of therapy dogs and the hormones that are released actually assists in the recall of temporal events. So that is transitions when students are feeling anxious or needing to transition or recall recent memory. There's a lot of research that shows that those calming effects help elevate that. I've also seen it used in different schools where it really provides an escape or a happy distraction for escalated or elevated students at that moment, providing a comfort. It can act as a catalyst in the process of restorative practices, so engaging in healthy conversations to discuss conflict, and then also physically lowers blood pressure and improves your cardiovascular health. I wanted to do some research in particular before I brought this to you just about other student benefits beyond the physical and the mental. And so research shows that there's an improved attendance rates. So for students that are reluctant to come to school or who maybe are fearful of what their day will look like, knowing that there's something positive at school that they look forward to, it helps improve attendance, improves academic performance. Overall, students have reported satisfaction and feeling of belonging within a school, and then there's some research behind students with disabilities in particular. So students report feeling a deeper bond with animals than they and feel that they're able to relate better to animals than humans. There's a lot of research out about students reading to therapy dogs and how that increases their confidence in reading, for example. And then finally, the last bullet point is students with disabilities. There's research that shows that they were engaged in significantly greater use of language skills. So whether that be reading, discussing a conflict, as well as social interaction with peers. There were higher interaction pieces with peers when the presence of a therapy dog. We all love dogs. I mean, most of us do. I have 2 of my own, but I really wanted to come to Sean and come to you guys, with a policy in place. We all love dogs. This doesn't mean that dogs just get to come to school. What is their purpose, their point? And then making sure that we have high expectations and criteria to ensure that our children are safe, our staff are safe, the dog is safe, and how can we promote our student outcomes?
How do you see this being implemented? What does this look like in your mind as far as having a therapy dog? One dog? Is it multiple? Is it how is there certain times of the day that it's here? How does that look for you to see this implemented?
So looking through the board policy, you to be considered a therapy dog, you have to be AKC certified through a program. So I've done a lot of looking into that. We have one in particular called Alliance Therapy Dogs, which is near us, and there's a couple of different trainers. So in talking with that trainer, and there are several local schools around us that have therapy dogs. Currently, there's one school district within our conference that actually has 2. The handlers are not classroom teachers because that presents a challenge for teachers, but they're generally either your specialist, school counselor, someone who has a little bit more flexibility in their day, meaning to take the dog to the bathroom. Myself, as a building administrator, I envision a set schedule, a set rotation, not 5 days a week. It can't impact our learning, right? We're still here to learn. That's the most important thing. I would envision, having a set day, 2 set days, and really teaching kids on how we use dogs, how they provide supports to us.
Is that something that we're looking at implementing in all buildings, or just right now in the intermediate school to see how that goes?
Intermediate is where we're starting.
Yes. Yes,
I don't love dogs.
He wants therapy cat.
that's not true.
I got some cats for you if you want. I can help you out with that.
What are the costs?
So I've worked with John and with Sean. A therapy dog should be owned by the handler. It should not cost the school district of Amery. So we do have, and I've worked with Brad as well on the mental health grant allocations. Mental health grant actually covers the training of a therapy dog. So there's not a cost to the school district. We have grant funds that we could use for that. If we were to move forward with the therapy dog is the ownership of the handler. So if it's a staff member, it's their dog. It's not our district dog. We're not providing any medical care, any food, anything like that. It is their dog. They're the handler of it, and they're the owner of it. I know when we've had some traumatic events here, death of staff members, I know that we've had people who have brought in dogs. I think of a kennel in particular that's local to us, that brought in their therapy dogs for several days, spent time with our students. That looks different and feels different. That's a traumatic event. This is set up in a schedule that's, helping promote our outcomes and being proactive with students.
I know they are using my daughter goes to UW River Falls, and obviously there was a terrible fall this year with a lot of students there that struggled with mental health and had unalived themselves. And they brought in therapy dogs many times to help the students, not only just through that grieving process and through the trauma of it, but then realize that there was a need for people who were, especially it was just young people that were trying to adjust to college and feeling lonely, and it was a big hit. Even my daughter sees animals on a daily basis almost, but she and her friends actually went. A lot of them happened in her dorm, in the dorms that they were in. So they lost 2 people, and so her friends and her frequented the therapy dogs quite often, and it was good even for people who are generally mentally strong and tough to go through those things. It was beneficial. So, and obviously, we have trauma here. It's a trauma-sensitive school. I think it applies with our trauma-sensitive practices here. I think that there's a lot of benefits to this. I just wanted to know how we see that being implemented.
I would envision going into year 1, if you guys, if this was to be approved, is really having a set schedule, Tuesday, Thursdays. The dog is here. We have someone that is currently getting their dog licensed as a therapy dog. So it's a great opportunity for us to have an opportunity to have a set schedule, but have it limited. I would say that, if we're gonna have to look at it as we go, but I can tell you our priority is learning here, learning and safety. We wanna meet the needs of our kids, but going slow to go fast would be important to me. I would not seek, as a building principal, a therapy dog being here 5 days a week. I think that we can see a lot of benefits of it, and we can meet the needs of our kids, and be flexible with our schedules to ensure that, we're getting what we need from a dog.
Which staff person would that be? You can share that here.
Okay, Troy Minarchuk has a dog. When you go through the therapy certification process, there's a lot of criteria that they have to meet as the handlers. You have to go through different sessions, they have to go through testing periods, obviously proof of vaccination and ownership, but then also just physical criteria, have to be over the age of 2. They have to be able to model and demonstrate them. They put them in different environments to make sure that the dog is certified to be able to come into a learning environment. This is something that Troy has wanted to do for a long time. Troy actually raised horses. And so for him, this is in him, the training piece of it. It's something that he sought out to do. And so as I was talking with Sean on this, the pieces kind of came together to be able to talk about this opportunity for the intermediate school.
And we've talked to Troy about bringing the dog here to meet all of you. Would you like to see that happen next month?
Yes.
The dog's name is Goose. Goose is very close to being certified. The last time I talked to Troy, he had 2 testing sessions to go. Goose did, and it's a King Cavalier Charles, so it's a littler dog, but
I know Lakeview Hospital in Stillwater has therapy dogs, and so if you can do it in the hospital, I would think a school setting could be very, very doable.
yeah, there's several around us,
Cool
both
idea.
ways, north and south of us, that have therapy dogs within their school. And their handlers are generally art teachers, phy ed teachers, school counselors. When I've reached out to them, Troy knows one. His kids go to school in a district that have 2 therapy dogs, so that's been a great resource for us. The DPI actually I think it was last April, had a really great segment on DPI Connect Ed, where they are promoting the use of therapy dogs within public schools. So that was kind of my first read of, could this be a reality for the intermediate school? And my ducks were not in a row at that point, but it definitely got me intrigued to look into it. So the DPI has a really great segment on therapy dogs as well.
Is this something you can quantify the results of having the dog here, or is it just something where you go, things are different, things are better?
We talked about that as student services. We use our Swiss program, and so we really wanted to be able to look at, is there a way that we can provide research to come back and say, this is how it's positively impacted our kids in these ways. I know some therapy dogs, when I've talked to other administrators, are on a set schedule. So if you have kids that come from a high trauma situation, for example, one of the students had lost a parent. So that dog, when that therapy dog was in, it was scheduled every time it was in, which was 3 days a week, that student had 10 minutes with that dog to launch its day, just a soft start to its day. And so they then, trailed off of that, but they're very purposeful in how these districts have used their dogs, to meet the needs of kids who's gone through significant trauma. It's not just everyone gets to love on the dog, but really being purposeful in the time and with the dog.
It would be interesting to track attendance on the days that the dog is here, with being a set schedule, and then not only that, but then behavioral reports on the days that the dog is here. I think those would be 2 key components of tracking that for a year to see. Obviously, we wouldn't see the results right away,
Right.
but once the kids got into a schedule, and I think that would be something purposeful that you could track
I would say there's
through the Swiss software, I think, obviously.
Yeah, and there's a correlation, right, between kids who've experienced trauma, their attendance rates, as well as academic rates, behavioral rates. And so if we focus on kids that have experienced those traumas or who have, behavioral concerns, if we can build a support system, and to include them and make them feel like they belong, if that's a reason they want to come to school, I would love to be able to track that. I can work with Troy and our student services team to see if there's a way that we can be, tracking the dog's name is Goose. How can we track Goose's time here to see if it's been beneficial to us?
What are the grants for it? What were the grants you were talking about?
The mental health allocation, I don't know, Brad, if you want to
There's
talk about that?
2, there's a mental health allocation that replaced grant funding that was in place for a handful of years. And then there's also Get Kids Ahead funding, which was a grant from, I want to say about 3 years ago. So we have close to expended out our mental health allocation, but we still have Get Kids Ahead funding that needs to be expended prior to the end of this calendar year. So
So is this ARPA funds, or what is this? Is this different?
state, both of these are state allocations, this is my understanding.
Okay, so then after this year, are those funds gonna be available to you? Again, this dog's gonna be hopefully around for a while. Are we gonna have funding after this next year when we have to utilize these funds by?
So the mental health allocation it's an ever-changing one. It started, I think, 2020, 2019 as a grant. That was a competitive grant that Brad used to write. Now it's an allocation, and there's this, I don't even know the best way of explaining it, but it's like a sidebar called Get Kids Ahead, which is a percentage of your total mental health allocation. And those numbers continue to climb year over year over year over year over year. But the stipulations with the mental health grant funding is that it can only be used for mental health services for all of our students. And so there's a broad spectrum, but mental health being a big component of that. And there's no end to that grant in sight whatsoever. Our allocation went up another 40,000 year over year. So there's plenty to continue to do that. And there's not, to the district, there's no incurred costs outside of what we've already potentially done with the grants and stuff like that.
So I would say, Joe, once the dog is trained, that dog is trained, right? We don't have to go back, Goose doesn't have to go back and get recertified.
Yeah, and this wouldn't be an addendum to Troy's contract
No.
or to any staff member's contract or anything. So it should be net zero. And the reality is, when you read through the policy that's written, our insurance company views the dog just like it does a water bottle. It's just property in their eyes. So any damage that the dog may do to a student or the property is covered by our insurance, but the dog itself is not covered. So if the dog gets injured, that would be Troy's liability, and that's all spelled out in that policy.
So what is the actual then money, whatever that amount is, what is it being used for? Like, if there's a cost, what is it? It's because it's not to train the dog, it's not to,
To train the dog.
It is to
Yep,
train the dog,
yep.
okay.
So, I went to Brad right away and said, does the mental health grant cover the cost of therapy dogs? And the answer was yes. So using the mental health grant funds would be to train the dog. Each trainer costs a little bit, it varies a little bit, but once Goose is done, that really is our financial commitment to the dog. That's it. It's just the training of it.
okay. So then every dog that would, if it would be added to other buildings, then
Right.
if there would be another dog, or we could potentially have to pay just for another dog, or it could
No,
be the same
the
dog
policy
used-
doesn't stay, the policy clearly lays out handler is owner. So we're not buying dogs. That's not the.
No,
Oh,
just, but you
mean
pay for the training of another dog.
Yeah, I
if-
think that could
yes.
be a case-by-case situation if need be.
Okay,
And the policy does not lay out who's responsible for the
Correct.
training, right? The policy says that we only allow therapy dogs that have completed the training.
right. 'Cause, yeah, I didn't see that in the policy.
I think, though, to expand on Joe's question, and probably, you get outside of the fact that you've got an employee who has a dog. If you were to bring a dog in that was from a non-employee, you'd most likely be paying for that individual to be here.
I do know there
And-
are, yes, some
And so that, would
therapy companies.
those fall under the same grant fundings?
Yeah, I would say with a fairly certain amount of of certainty, yeah, they would. For instance, if we had let's just say an event that happened in the Amery community where we brought in outside therapy dogs to help with the grieving process afterwards, those would absolutely fall under the mental health grant or Get Kids Ahead, as well as 3 or 4 other grants that are out there for those specific trauma-based incidents.
No, I think I'm just from a different system as in regards to canines, we have to pay for
Everything?
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's law.
Yeah.
It was important to me to have a rigorous policy, because like I said, I know lots of teachers here, myself, we love dogs, but if we're gonna be using them in a purposeful way, I want to be sure that we have a strong policy that lays out what are the expectations. We need to make sure kids are safe, we're using the dogs in the right way. We don't have dogs all over, but they are, following our strict and rigorous expectations.
Yeah, I think that probably just ties in at this point to the next item on our agenda of the first reading of this policy. I have questions, but I think they're more suited for this particular part of the conversation, so this would be up to you for the school therapy dog policy, I think, than the first reading.
If there's any changes you want me to bring back next month, or I'll just bring it back as you see it now. I've seen it, but it isn't mine to vet, it's certainly yours. No pun intended in regards to vet.
I read through it, didn't notice anything.
I did have something that I would like to add on the therapy dog standards and requirements on number 4, health and safety. And I guess I'll just outline this, but the therapy dog must be clean, well-groomed, in good health, housebroken, immunized against diseases common to dogs. Proof of the therapy dog's current vaccination and immunizations from a licensed veterinarian must be submitted at the time of the request to bring a therapy dog to school. I would like to see an addition there of a negative fecal sample every 3 to 4 months. Fecal samples are usually inexpensive. I think if you have a school therapy dog, many vets will waive the fee for a fecal sample. It's not something that would require a veterinarian visit. It would something that you could just collect the sample and bring it in, drop it off. They're usually around $20, $25. And the only reason I ask for that is because, of course, the immunizations are important for the dog if they're coming into other contact with other dogs other than the rabies vaccine, which could be transferred from dog to human, but a negative fecal is more important, especially with young kids. Petting, handling dogs where we have worm eggs, that's a possibility. There's nothing in here that speaks to the deworming of the dog. And usually that's done by owner. And I would like to trust that it gets done every month and all of those things, but I think if we have a negative fecal test on file every 3 to 4 months, I would feel better about that, just because it's something that's so easily transmissible from dog to zoonotic diseases that are transmittable from dogs to humans, especially with young kids, and they don't always wash their hands, and they're in their faces, and yeah. Us farmers just know about that.
I would say, I did not know all that, so I think it's a great addition.
Yeah, so I would like to see that. The other question that I have is, this is a school therapy dog, which is obviously being used for educational purposes and all of those things in a different capacity, but I wonder when we adopt this about opening the door for individual students bringing therapy dogs to school, which I know was an issue several years ago in the high school. We had a student who was seizure prone, needed a therapy dog, or at least wanted to bring a therapy dog.
A therapy dog or a service dog?
A therapy service dog. So, but that's kind of like, if we're gonna have a therapy dog and then we didn't allow for service dogs, where does that open the door then for emotional health, emotional support, service dogs? So drawing a line of medical service dogs, do we have a policy for medical service dogs?
I'm sure there's references to service dogs, but it might not be called that specifically. Where I would see it would be the port of entry would be through pupil services, and then we would go through the process of ensuring that that's part of that student's plan, because if a student has that type of a need, it's probably in an at-risk plan or a 504 or an IEP or somewhere, and then it becomes authentic and legitimate, and then you can put all of the parameters in there that you want to put in there to make sure everyone is safe, including the dog and the kid.
Right.
So yes, I don't think it would be a carte blanche, now everyone gets their dog, bring their dog to school, by no means. Yeah, we wouldn't have a dog here unless there was an absolute 100% reason why it needed to occur, and that would be through a variety of different references for that kid, doctors and so forth.
Service dogs have a totally different set of
Yes.
regulations than therapy dogs.
Right.
Yes.
And like, you know, we have had requests before, but it wasn't a certified service dog. And it's gotta be a certified service dog.
Right. I wanted to make sure that the languages that we're using, and then how does that affect, and I just want to make sure that it might be the time to
'Cause
revisit
by
laws
law-
like service
Sure.
dogs and things like that.
By law, especially if someone demonstrates a disability and they have a certified service dog, I think schools probably feels they have no choice but to allow it in.
Correct.
And I think you could copy and paste this into a service dog policy as well, for the most part.
Yeah. I just think it would be a good time to kind of shore those up at the same time.
Is there any limit to the number of dogs?
1,400?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, oh, no,
One per.
I'm gonna get a
Fair
service
litter.
dog, it's in our policies, so I wanna bring, I'm like,
I
Well,
think,
and that was kind of where I can see like maybe doors being
Yeah.
opened and I want to be
this is
obviously
a very legitimate process where we're controlling what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I think we start with if you choose to, start with the service dog at the intermediate school and see how it goes. But we're not gonna open the door to 17 dogs running the hallways. That's not gonna work.
Exactly.
And what I appreciate hearing and working alongside with Troy is that it's been, almost a year-long process by the time Goose is certified. So it's been a big commitment from Troy, his family, working with Goose outside of, being with the trainer. But they've had to do outside social hours where they've had to go into public spaces and track hours that they're doing. I would hope that if someone else is considering a therapy dog, that they understand the time commitment that is related to this, that it's a rigorous process that requires a lot of time and a lot of, probably emotional stress.
I do want to bring up one more thing, not to be a Debbie Downer here. And I do believe that the benefits far outweigh this one drawback. But we all know that it's an animal and things happen. And we need to be prepared for the fallout of what happens when something happens to Goose and Goose is no longer here. Because those kids are going to get very attached in a very short period of time, so then what?
And you're
What
right.
do we do?
I've read a couple different articles that talk about the loss of a therapy dog and how you guide your students through that loss, which is supposed to be one of your coping mechanisms of loss. When you've lost that, what
Yes.
replaces that?
Yes.
What does that look like? And that would be something we'd have to, really plan for.
Yeah.
Then we
It's
moved to
sad.
pigs,
Huh.
therapy pigs.
You talk to my wife to bring a horse in.
Yeah.
Well, it does happen, and laugh about this because farmers have capitalized a lot on, like, with milk prices, you have to figure out another venue, but social media has been, you could adopt, like, cows, or you can put up cameras and you can watch, like, get this calf, and inevitably, livestock does turn into dead stock, and that's hard to, like, people have, like, classroom subscriptions, and then you have to, like, explain, like, why Lily is no longer Lily. It's terrible, but I think that the benefits far outweigh that risk, but something that we desperately need to think of
Absolutely.
if something happens.
How often is this evaluated?
The policy?
Whether the dog's working or not?
I would think Jessica would be in right away.
No,
Uh,
are we gonna do quarterly evaluations to see if there's projects for the benefit of our school?
If I think we can get quarterly data, I would say yes. I think quarterly, it might be hard to show what the positive outcomes are. The start of the school year, we're kind of in a honeymoon period for quite some time, and then come October, the honeymoon's over, and we're probably all hands on deck.
Yeah.
I could give you, do we want to plan for halfway through the year? I can give you a report on maybe what we're seeing. If you'd like it earlier, I just might not have data to drive, have a data-driven conversation by that point.
I think like halfway through the school year, you talk that after Christmas break, it's probably beneficial to bring an update, but I don't think you're gonna have hard data for a year. I think you're gonna have to look at a whole year of
To see.
data before you can really see what any kind of benefits are, but an update would be fantastic.
Okay.
Would
You're
Jen-
overthinking this. I'm just like, it's good would be,
Oh, okay.
or,
Yeah, well, that's me.
or if there was ever a time.
PowerPoint? You want to?
You don't understand, these are data-driven people.
Like, you can't stand it anymore, it's driving me nuts. The dog won't stop barking.
If it doesn't work, I'll bring mine in, and then you're in for a treat, because holy cow. I got a 2-year-old retriever, or 1-year-old retriever, and there's a lot of energy there. Oh,
But
man.
you did bring your dog in for a day.
I
when
did,
We had a
yep,
traumatic
at the
stress
elementary,
event.
yep, it worked great. She loved it.
And it was a spur of the moment kind
Oh,
of thing,
yeah.
and
I had to bring her to the kennel. I'm like, I'm gonna stop at the elementary. This would be a good time for that.
I
Yep,
think,
she
yeah, it
loved
was a
it.
great thing,
She
yeah.
would've stayed all day, but you wouldn't have wanted her to stay all day.
So just to piggyback on the financial part, so my understanding with Goose, we use some of our funds to help train Goose. So if a community member comes forward and says, I'm willing to do this, are we then also going to say, after a trial period with Goose, we think it's a great thing. A community member then comes forward. Are we then also saying that we're going to financially assist that community member with his or her dog?
Well, I think you can structure it however you really wanted to. I think what I would recommend is once we have some consumable data, you set what your threshold is. And whether it's annual or biannual or whatever the case may be, we can just look at making a static allotment. And, it kind of, for lack of a better term, more of like a bid process, if it does become one where we've got all sorts of people and we're adding animals here and adding animals there. I think at that time, I'm looking at this more as the pilot, and I think at that time is when you guys would make the decision as far as this is what we would like to see our caps be and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely have concerns about just paying for training for anybody's dog.
And I would say, Troy's
Yeah.
a long-term employee.
Correct.
His wife is in education as well. She's now in Hudson. He's committed to the school district of Amery, and I doubt that we'll see him go anywhere anytime soon. But to your point, what happens when Susie, business owner, has one and says, I want to do the same thing? I fully get that. But I think that's why after we have some actual data, you guys need to just lay out a little bit more of what your expectation would be.
Yeah, I think I could envision that, like, somebody already has spent the money, already has the dog certified, already has the money into it, and then it would be basically just payment for a service to come in hourly. That's how I would envision that. I think you could go down a slippery slope offering to pay for
Yeah.
anybody to have their service dogs trained, and then it doesn't work out.
I'd want to be really conscientious that having someone outside, maybe not on a schedule, or an in-house individual or an educator, would negatively impact the functioning of our building.
Yeah.
A dog walking in, and there are kids and adults come out of the woodwork to see a dog or any animal that's in here. What I like about having our therapy dog, and it would be here in our building with the staff members, it's going to be something that's going to be exciting at first, but then becomes part of our routine.
Yes.
So learning can continue to happen. I would be really hesitant to open up a door and say, anyone who has one, you're welcome, and this is great. We still have to learn. That's the primary function of our building. So I would be hesitant beyond, Troy's dog. Having more than one would probably be something I would look at pretty hard.
Yeah, more of a distraction than
Correct.
a help.
Right.
Tom, you old buddy-duddy over there.
He's stressed out over here. He's giving me dirty looks, like, why? Why do you do these things?
I can see him physically distancing himself from you.
It's fine, you have his pet time.
You should have seen the horror on his face when I'm like, is all buildings gonna implement this? He's just like, don't even suggest it. It's okay,
Sorry,
next year,
Tom.
Tom, your time's coming.
Maybe your data, if your data is really good.
We'll just
You
get
do like
Tom
that,
a
huh?
therapy hamster.
Yeah, hamsters are good.
Other than, I don't have any other concerns with the policy, other than I would just like to see that added to number 4 there.
I had a question where the policy wording came from. Did you copy it from?
From several Wisconsin school districts. I kind of pulled a bunch of them, and I looked at the liability, the expectations, the registration, and then I shared it with Sean and with John a couple times. We had different tweaks and suggestions we went from there, so.
I thought it was well done.
Thank you.
Yes, especially the allergies. You did address the allergies. If people are allergic to said dog, it can't
Correct.
be here. And yeah, the liabilities, I think, were, covered, and the expectations and how it's going to be handled, and the rules are very set forth. So I thought it was a really well-written policy. I just would like to see that fecal added. That's just a huge concern with kids, so. Any other input? Okay. Why are you just like smile like I got something, but
got
just
nothing.
move along and get out of here.
Ready to
Move along, get out of here. All right, so off to the action items and updates to policy 527, the employee grievances. There's been a couple of lines added there based on our conversation last month.
The item that you see added there in color, page 4, it's simply reproduced 2 times, so it's the same language. And I'll simply read it. It's a short paragraph. The district will make every effort to appoint an independent hearing officer, which is entirely, neutral and unbiased regarding the ongoing investigation. The district may use their attorney as the IHO, Yet the district will consider other options for the appointment of an IHO to best preserve the integrity of the investigative process. And again, it's there on 2 occasions.
I like the language. Joe, what did you think?
Well, I was just gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the updates to policy 527, employee grievances.
I'll
Do
second
I have a
that.
second? It's been moved and seconded to accept the changes made to our grievance procedure. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All of those in favor of the updates made to policy 527, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes, updates are adopted. Thank you for that language change.
Welcome.
Off to the rousing second reading of the Davis-Bacon compliance procedure. And I'm guessing, John, you got that, right?
I sure do. Yep, nothing's changed except for on the back, piggybacking off of the therapy dog is the office room full of puppies in the district office. No, actually, no, nothing has changed from the last time. Again, just to recap, in case you are wondering, this is simply just a process that we need to follow moving forward when expending federally funded dollars on capital projects over $2,000. And it just lays out the steps that George, myself, and our contractors during the bidding process and execution of those actually need to follow. So if you have any questions, feel free.
When you're using the big vendors that deal with this stuff day in and day out, do they just provide you with stuff?
Yeah,
or you-
as it turns out, going through this entire process, the only thing we needed to tell our contractor was, I need certified payroll, and that's it. And so
But reading through this, it also talks about doing interviews of
Yeah.
the staff,
Yeah.
and so
So-
who does that fall on?
So that falls on the contractor to do and report back to us. So George is supposed to oversee them doing those things. But for the most part, that's on them to do.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 672-2, the Davis-Bacon
-7?
sorry, where am I at?
Oh,
Dash
there's
2.
2 on 1 and 7.
Oh, it's 672-7.
Up at the top here. Must be a typo.
It's a
there.
typo on
My
the,
bad.
On the agenda.
-7, thank you. Davis-Bacon compliance procedures.
is there a second?
Second.
Dale. Is there any further discussion on the Davis-Bacon compliance procedures?
Only one. If you were gonna be dealing with a smaller vendor, then would this hinder in hiring that smaller vendor, or would you just say this has to happen in order? for
No,
the
it would just be part of, you would need it as part of your contract to stipulate you need to follow Davis-Bacon and basically the prevailing wage clause. That's what the nuts and bolts of that are. The reality is that's usually where people get into trouble. We didn't get any sort of fiscal punishment because we did pay prevailing wage because we used a larger contractor. With the smaller contractors, they are going to need more handholding from a George and from a John and from whoever to kind of lay out like, all right, we need to know what is X, Y, and Z employee making and what's their, so it might take a little bit more and then they're gonna have to do a certified payroll. But again, this is one where, with the exception of ESSER, we haven't used federally funded dollars to pay for capital projects for 20 years.
Sure.
So barring any sort of major thing happening again, this is one that.
Just a formality.
It's just a formality that we're gonna sit on until forever, probably.
Okay, I'm good.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the Davis-Bacon compliance procedures. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. That has been adopted. We are off to the 2024-2025 student academic standards, and Jess, you're up.
This is the last time you'll hear from me tonight. This is our annual notice. So the school district of Amery has a responsibility for maintaining a minimum program of instruction guaranteed by Wisconsin State Statute 118.30 for initiating improvements beyond that minimum. The relevant statutes encompass standards in mathematics, science, reading, writing, geography, and history. Professional staff under the direction and supervision of the curriculum coordinator are delegated the responsibility for developing curriculum changes and additions. The School District of Amery School Board approves the adoption of pupil academic standards on an annual basis, which leads us to here. The School District of Amery establishes standards and aligns their curriculum and instruction. So K-12 English Language Arts and Mathematics are based upon the Common Core state standards. All other program areas are based upon the most current Wisconsin model academic standards, national standards of next generation science standards, and college, career, and civic life framework for social studies standards. This is a clipping from the Wisconsin DPI. So it shares what's the relationship between the vision, principles, process, and content of standards. So the Wisconsin academic standards specify what students should know when and what they should be able to do in the classroom. So they serve as goals for teaching and for learning. Setting high standards enables students, parents, and educators and citizens to know what students should have learned at a given point in time within a grade level. In Wisconsin, all state standards serve as a model. Locally elected school boards adopt academic standards in each subject area to best serve the local community. So why are academic standards important? Academic standards ensure that all children have equal access to high-quality education programs. Clear statements about what students must know and be able to do are essential in making sure our schools offer opportunities to get the knowledge and skills necessary for success beyond the classroom. These are the Wisconsin DPI, and I believe our guiding principles within setting standards is every student has the right to learn. Instruction must be rigorous and relevant. Purposeful assessments drive our instruction and affects learning. Learning is a collaborative responsibility between staff and students. Students bring their strengths, experiences, and their background to learning, and then it's our responsibility to create responsive environments to engage our learners and meet their needs. This is a phase-by-phase rollout from the Wisconsin DPI. I know I show this to you every year. I want to just highlight that every year as we're adopting a new curriculum or considering even resources within a curriculum, we are living in one of these three phases. Year one of an ELA, that was our biggest one, was probably phase one, which was researching what do we need, right? Science of reading is coming. What does that mean? What do we need? Phase two is purchasing that curriculum, beginning to use the curriculum, understanding the curriculum, and then phase three and beyond is the assessment instruction pieces, which we are very solid in. So that's an ongoing process for us. This is our program alignment. You will see, as I just read in our annual notice, English Language Arts, Mathematics, we did implement new standards in 2024, and those were on the forward as well. We follow the Common Core state standards. For science, we follow the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards and NGSS. For social studies, we follow the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards and then the C3, which stands for College and Career Civic Life Framework. Art, music, Phy-Ed, health, and CTE vocational, we follow the Wisconsin Model Academic and the national standards. I always put this on for anyone that wants to see where are our standards, where can you find them. This is on our school district website. There are live links. You can click on any of the content area standards below in red, and it will actually take you to the NGSS or the Common Core state standards to highlight what are those standards that we are following.
Any questions? I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Shocker, I know. And maybe more for Paula.
Sure.
Do we think, I love that we are geared towards providing a high-quality, rigorous academic environment. Do we feel that having these academic standards, do we feel, especially for our kindergartners coming in or our first graders, just a lot of thoughts that I've been giving to some of these things over a year, are we expecting more from our incoming kindergartners than we have in the past? Do we expect them to know more coming into kindergarten with these standards than they have ever known in the past?
In recent, no, we have been, using the same standards and expecting the same thing in recent years. A few years ago, yes, those standards did increase at about 1.5 years grade level. So yeah, we're expecting a lot for them to know, so that we're doing a lot of rigorous stuff as well in 4K to get them ready for kindergarten. So yeah, that did pop up, but that was a few years ago.
Okay.
When the standards were implemented, they were very, very similar. Like when Common Core came out, and a lot of people didn't understand exactly how that came, but Common Core was basically tied and based off of what Wisconsin was already doing. because Wisconsin had set the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, and we were one of the few states that had standards. Many states did not. And so when the 50 governors and the 50, directors of those 50 state governors and the 50 superintendents, state superintendents got together and they wrote those, there was 4 or 5 driving states, and Wisconsin was one of them. And so if you look at the Common Core and you look at the original Wisconsin academic standards, they were almost word for word. However, the only big change was they ratcheted up in intensity, meaning that, looking at what was expected from, let's say you can read and write and thoroughly explain. So they were expecting the kids to reach a little bit higher levels of understanding, but what the materials were pretty similar. So I would say that they probably did increase when they first came out, but and this, then as far as like the next, when science and social studies started jumping out with some of the next gen standards and things, they started taking them further too into, it's important to understand science, but how can you apply it to real life situations? So we learn about science, but then we talk a lot about engineering, or we talk about field science and what are the careers that are tied to this, and making it more real for them, and that's been really, really valuable.
The approach statewide in Wisconsin's been to increase the depth of knowledge from basically 4K through 12 in every subject area.
Yeah.
And that's, in essence, what Tom is saying. Not that you know the X, Y, Z, but how do you apply it? That's depth of knowledge.
Yeah, we could describe
And-
that as the language for learning.
And that's
Using that knowledge.
that's what our instructors have had ingrained in them for years now, and they speak that language. And it's been greatly successful.
I was just wondering if, what we're expecting from sometimes our younger learners, if it's more than developmentally that they're ready for. I think just seeing some of like the behavior issues that we've had coming in, that kids maybe aren't emotionally and behaviorally ready for that kind of learning. And I'm wondering how that is affecting, if these standards are affecting the behavior that we have seen in our younger learners. Obviously, it looks like by the time we get to like 3rd grade, 4th grade, it's more of a catch-up. And so I just spent a lot of time thinking, researching, talking, and just wondering how this would relate to some of our younger learners, and how often is this updated, and how often do we update that to meet the needs of where our younger learners are coming in at.
A really great benefit of our 4K all-day, everyday program is it's a play-based program. So the academic rigor of 4K really is very limited, right? I know focusing on maybe letter formation or the letters within your name, but a lot of it in 4K is that social skills. So big blocks of time where they learn to take turns, how to solve a conflict. Those social skills piece are really pushed in 4K to help them develop the skills that they need, because you're right, you get to kindergarten and you're hit the ground running, right? You're gonna be learning, 50 sight words, you're learning all the letters, the letter sounds. So having a play-based program that is all day, every day has really supported the behavioral piece, the social piece of just learning how to go to school.
Some of those things that we bring into that are some of our programs like skill streaming, and that starts very heavy in 4K, and they have just really embraced that and been working really hard with that, and that is just what Jess is talking about, taking turns, being able to sit, to sit when needed, ask questions when needed, be able to have that language to go with their social skills.
Do you know what our percentage of our kindergartners also attended 4K here? Do we know? Do we have an idea?
Not off the top of my head, I don't know.
We
if
could
that's
find out
right.
fast.
I think
Could figure
it's
it out,
probably
yeah.
a high percentage, I'm
It is a
assuming,
very
would
high
right?
percentage.
Because, a lot of people choose to use it as a daycare avenue, kind of, if they're working parents or whatever, so.
We even have a combination of parents that, have a student that is on the younger side of the class, and they'll want them to really start kindergarten more when they're just gonna be turning 6 or things like that. And they'll start 4K and do like an every other day, and then they'll go full days 4K and then into kindergarten. So there is some combination things like that happen too, so parents can get their kiddos in.
Okay. It's a data piece I'd like to see as we
Yes.
talk about the strategic plan, if
Yeah.
you could find that out.
The other side of it is when you hit the assessment piece, the assessments that we are required to have kids at a certain level are completely tied to the standards that you just saw.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so they're saying these kids that we're going to measure on these state tests and these other assessments, what kids can do to the specific level. And that's why we take it. And we take them and break it down even further and say, okay, no, because there could be 40-some standards in English. So we say, okay, which ones are the absolute essentials, the must-knows? And so then they break down their essential standards, and then we tie a lot of our learning to, you will master this. We will reteach it till you get it and make sure that they understand it and have a high level. And that's why we're getting such good growth.
And that's happening at every building
Yeah,
level,
the
correct?
PLC process.
Yes,
Yeah.
another nice connection between those younger students is with our clubhouse. Between clubhouse and our 4K and our kindergarten, there's a lot of pyramid model training that happens, and that is, goes along with the developmental age appropriateness of students and their learning. And with that, we get a lot of our 4K students from clubhouse, so it's a natural handoff there as well. So that's really a nice combination, nice partnership.
Can you bring some more of that, I guess, you know, I hate to say, like, we go over these test scores and I keep thinking it's 80% of the 30th percentiles type stuff. And, I mean, I would really like to know more, like, the specifics of what we're making these children learn.
Oh.
If you can, I don't
Yeah,
know, but.
I mean, I'm not quite sure, like, how we use the data to drive what we're doing.
Well,
Or-
just that though too, but in regards to the strategic planning
Yeah.
itself, you know, again, like I think I said last month or whatnot, when we're 56%,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to get to that 80%, you know, of our goal? And like I asked, is it even achievable? And in certain area, in a certain one area.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I hope that's part of our strategic planning.
It should be,
Oh,
yep.
absolutely.
Yep, I mean,
And that's
obviously
probably
content
falls
area.
a little bit more in that essential standard piece, to kind of drill down right on those skills.
Thank you.
See, and we're able to break down, they won't tell you what the question said. They don't want us to say, here, we're not allowed to look at the test and say, okay, here's what they're asking, here's the
You
right
can't
answer.
teach to a test,
You can't
yeah.
teach the test. So they say, teach the standard, make sure the kids understand the standard. But we do get a really, really detailed breakdown of standard in reading. The kids can read and comprehend and recite back, or they can write for multi-purposes. And so when we get the results back, we get them broken down, and we do item analysis on each standard. And so we say, which standard are the kids having success on, which standards are they not? Was there a DOK level, a depth of knowledge? One question can actually have 2 or 3 components to it, so can you identify this and then explain how to do this with it? And there's almost like 2 questions within it. So we break down in detail on those standards and say, and when we get to in-service, people always wonder, like, what do we do during in-service? But we're saying, take a look at this, and where do you feel your kids are having success, and where are they not successful? And if you can show consistently over several years off of these item analysis that kids are not being successful on a specific standard, then we know that we have to step back and take a look at how we're teaching it, or what we're teaching, or when we're teaching it, to make sure that we're in making our own improvements for teachers. So those state tests, oftentimes, those reports come back, and they're actually evaluating how we're doing and what can we do better. I can show you some of that, maybe.
I would love it.
The forward test is different though from the
Yeah.
ACT.
Yeah.
The ACT does not break it down for us nice the way the forward test does.
Yeah.
You know, they say, well, you got 7 out of 13 questions correct in math.
Yeah.
And that, but the forward test breaks it down and allows you to really do a deep dive.
Like a great example is if we struggle in 3rd grade with the strand of geometry, we can see that over time. And so over the last couple of years, we've actually moved geometry to teach it about 6 weeks before the forward, because it's normally a unit that's taught at the end of 3rd grade. Well, if we teach it at the end of 3rd grade, they're never going to get it by the time we test them forward in March. So being able to like drill it down and see geometry is a struggle for us. We're going to move it to the front, and we're going to embed it multiple times in the year to make sure that we're hitting it.
Further discussion on the academic standards? Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the 2024-2025 student academic standards?
I'll make that motion.
Steve?
Second.
Gwen? It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2024-2025 student academic standards. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the academic standards, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passed. Student academic standards for the 2024-2025 school year have been approved. Moving on to the 2024-2025 extracurricular activity contracts. Mr. Derfler, you're up.
What you see there in your folder, you have a blue page, which is your athletic contracts, and then your other activities is the green page. These are for 24-25. We are ready to issue the fall contracts for athletics and items that begin in the fall for activities. The amounts have not changed. Some of the names have changed, but we haven't increased the number of dollars in the Extra C the Extra C grid, if you will. It remains the same. In order to issue those contracts, though, we need your approval to do that. So that's what I'm here to ask tonight, and if there are any questions, I'll do my best.
We still have 2 open middle school football coach spots.
Well, we might have filled
We
one,
may have filled one, right?
maybe today.
Yeah.
It was not Dale.
We're hoping.
You're hoping.
Might have been Shar.
Okay. I love it, but I can't get paid. I have to volunteer. If you ever get out of here,
He has closed the deal tonight.
you gotta close the deal tonight. Oh, let me ask where this place is happening at. Okay. Okay, I guess we better move along. We need a football head coach for our middle school.
Yeah, there are some openings still, but according to Jeff, the picture looks better than it has in recent years. We get a lot less positions open than we typically do, which is good.
DI and chess club advisors still open too? Anybody interested? No takers? DI? Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 extracurricular contracts.
Joe? Gwen?
And I will just make the comment that I will abstain from voting as I have a family member in the junior high coaching staff, so.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded to accept the 2024-2025 extracurricular contracts as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Dale will be abstaining from this vote. All of those in favor of approving the 2024-25 athletics extracurricular contracts, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All of those opposed, please signify by saying no. And Dale would be one abstaining. With that, the motion passes. The 2024-2025 extracurricular contracts are approved. On to personnel.
Okay, for personnel, new employment and extracurricular contracts for Kimberly Anderson, Special Ed Para, Brian Erdrich, Drama Co-Director, Brianna Iverson, Special Ed Para, Yolanda Juarez, Regular Ed Para, Olivia Pedersen, 7th grade girls volleyball head coach, Leah Rasmussen for 7th grade girls volleyball assistant coach, Christina Reichert, Office Para, Trace Sipiorsky, Prom Assistant Advisor, Rosemarie Spinell, Kindergarten Teacher, Long-Term Sub, Paula Stevens, Dance Team Advisor, Riley Walls, High School Physical Education and Health Teacher, one reassignment, Misty Wishard, moving from a Special Ed Para to a Regular Ed Para, and 2 resignations, 1 Mike Kelly for Physical Education Teacher, and 2 Jacqueline Weiserman, Special Ed Teacher.
Mr. Sipiorsky is a brave man to take on the old prom assistant advisor. So thanks, Mr. Sipiorsky, for that. Any questions on personnel?
I'll make a motion, we approve the personnel items as presented.
Dale, is there a second?
Second.
Gwen, is there any further conversation regarding the personnel action for this month? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving personnel action, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Personnel action items are approved. Are there any community comments? Not tonight? Okey dokey. There's no reason to go into closed session tonight, I believe, so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Joe wants that new head football coach now. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, meeting's adjourned.